Hello, kids, and a hearty good afternoon. It is 12:05, almost 12:06, and we're happy to have you with us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is Monday. It is Valentine's Day Eve, February the 13th. Fair warning to all of you gentlemen in the listening audience that will be standing in line at Publix or Kroger or some other grocery store with a handful of flowers tomorrow afternoon. It's one of my favorite things to do on Valentine's Day is to go watch all the poor schleps in the grocery stores buying the last remnants of the flowers so that they don't get the evil eye for the next 364 days. That said, it is the day before, so you've had fair warning. It's episode 278 of the Mac Murphy Radio Show, and we have lots to do. Lots to get into, not the least of which is Conspiracy Monday. So I'm taking the phones off of hold because I love hearing from you. We also have the Super Text line up and running. By the way, as always now, I get to say as always, Super Talk WTN TV, TNTV as we call it, is up and running yet again, and we're happy to see you and hear from you via the chat features. There's a variety of platforms. You can join us on Facebook Live, Twitter, what did I say? I said Facebook. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Plus, we're also podcasting on the Apple platform now, which is a big deal. So there's just any number of ways for you to catch the show, even if you miss a little. During the course of the broadcast, you can always go and catch up. And by the way, the Apple podcast feature, we've had a number of you ask, because on our podcasting feature, we have limited bandwidth, and we only have the ability to put up selected snippets of the show. So at any given day, Bell will select perhaps an interview of interest or some other period in the show, and we'll throw that up on the podcast page on the website, 997wtn.com. We do it that way because we don't have the amount of space that it would take to put all 4 hours up every single day for every single live and local show. But now we do. With the Apple podcast feature, you'll have all of the show every day up and running on the podcast. It's my understanding. And that's big for people who perhaps miss a little of the show, want to go back and catch something that you miss. Believe it or not, there are people that want to hear every single moment of this radio show, and I don't know why, but I don't question it. I don't question it one bit. All right, there's much to get into having nothing to do with the Super Bowl. Okay? I'm not hating on the Super Bowl. I'm not hating on people that talk about the Super Bowl. I do not, and I mean this sincerely. Every year, this happens. And every year I say it. I do not have the emotional energy. I do not have the emotional connection to get all fired up and pissed off about the halftime show at the Super Bowl. I don't care. And not that I'm trying to wag my... Chris Stapleton was great, by the way. Not that I'm trying to wag my finger at you so much. But I'm going to do a little bit of finger wagging here, okay? They're not broadcasting for you. And I don't know how many times we have to do this for us to understand that. They haven't been broadcast. Unless you are 24, they don't care about you at the halftime show. That's just is what it is. And you can either choose to go get some dip and go to the bathroom and do your own thing, or go, I don't know, the amount of time that it takes to do this halftime show, you could go, build you a shed in the backyard during halftime, whatever. I just don't understand the amount of people that just wait to get pissed off about it. I don't, for the life of me, get it. Now, I understand the wardrobe malfunction from years ago. Justin Timberlake and who was it? Janet Jackson? I mean, I get that because you got kids watching, man. You can't, throw out some naked boobs on TV, broadcast television, and expect to get away with that. And I understand some of the mild consternation regarding, the crotch grabbing. But the amount of people that just went out of their way to complain about that, I just don't have the emotion. Now, I will say this. The United States of America avoided what could have been, listen to me well, we avoided what could have been a tremendous American tragedy last night. And I'll tell you what I mean. Because I saw this coming together, and I thought, this can't be good. So you have Rihanna up on a platform above the stadium. She's like hovering up there, and apparently she's a little pregnant, and so she's wearing this large outfit, and it was designed to be all voluminous. No, that's not a word. That's not a preferred word. Got a lot of girth to it. Not voluptuous, although it did have a little something going on there, but it was something. Anyway, it was designed to be large, and she's hovering above the thing, and I'm thinking, man, oh man, you got that all-women fighter team. They're going to swoop in here and shoot that thing. You know how women are. They get emotional. Shoot first. That's good. I couldn't get through it. I'm sorry. That all-female fighter squad, man, you got to watch out. You better, look, it's not my fault that I know that it's an all-female fighter squad. They only told me 28,000 times in a 4-hour Super Bowl or 5-hour Super Bowl. And I love it. I think it's awesome. I don't think I need to be told that much. I don't think I need to be told that much that this is the first time that there's two black quarterbacks starting in an NFL Super Bowl in the history of the game. I get it that it's an important thing and whatever, and let's say it and let's move on. I'm not concerned with the fact that I just don't allow these cultural issues, these cultural touchstones to get under my skin in the manner that people seem to be waiting to get it under the skin. I don't know about you, but I didn't see Klan members. I just didn't. Of course, I wasn't looking all that closely either. Because, once again, I'm not waiting to get offended by something. I don't. You couldn't offend me if you tried. So, there's my analysis of the halftime show, and that's about all you're going to get. It is Conspiracy Monday on the Matt Murphy Show. And this is of a more serious note. Now, Bel K was at the house last night, and Erica put together this just ginormous spread, enough for 20 folk. And I love her dearly, and it was all delicious. It was incredible. But it is also, the amount of food that we had was absolutely insane. It was awesome. And we'll talk more along those lines coming up at some point over the course of the day, but we need to get right into it. Why have we not, serious question, and if I'm wrong, I know that someone will call in or write in and correct me, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Why have we not, say it right, Murphy, early on a Monday. Why have we not seen a photograph of these objects? Has anyone else thought about that question? We have them. They have them. You're telling me we don't have them? Of course we have them. Why have we not seen one? The United States military is now saying that it's brought down no fewer than 4 unidentified flying objects. And let's talk about this use of the term. That is the proper use of the term. A UFO is not a space alien. A UFO can be a space alien, I suppose. A UFO can be a weather balloon. A UFO can be a Frisbee. You get the idea? A UFO is anything that's flying through the sky that is unidentified. That it's in the name, unidentified flying object. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, for the most part, we have been conditioned when we hear the term UFO, we think space alien. And I want to stop this line for oh my God, I just got emotional. I don't know when this happened, but I just found out about this. Have you guys seen in Syria and in Turkey the amount of devastation going on there, the recovery operations that are going on there right now? 36,000 people plus are dead a week after this horrific, disastrous earthquake. And I just saw in the 182nd hour, they pulled a 13-year-old boy alive from the rubble. Now, that might not have happened just now. I might just be seeing it. It might have been earlier. I don't know when it was, but it gave me chills when I read it just now on one of our monitors. 182 hours. That's a miracle. 13-year-old boy. That's incredible. I can't say the word. A super texter was trying to help me on it. And thank you. Voluminous. Thank you, Mr. K. Voluminous. There you go. I talk for a living, everyone. 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's my allotment of time. Why? It's a simple question, and I would love to see someone ask a Pentagon official. I mean, we could get into the weeds here and ask why the Pentagon is holding a press conference during the Super Bowl to begin with. That doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense. Why is the President of the United States not speaking on this today? It's a serious question. Why is the President of the United States of America not standing before the American people and talking about what's going on over our skies right now? The answer to that question is a simple one. He can't. He can't sit down with Fox Soul over the weekend and answer a few questions from Fox Soul. Did you hear that story? We have a president so inept at his job. And understand, when I say that Joe Biden does something, I don't mean that Joe Biden does anything. Joe Biden's people does something. Joe Biden doesn't do anything. He gets up in the morning. He makes poopy. He goes to breakfast. You know, I would assume that he has something to do with clothing himself, although I'm not really sure about that anymore. He's still good at reading. He's been doing it for 50 years, so he can manage to read. Understand this. And this should scare the hell out of you, especially with what's going on in our skies. When you see Joe Biden on camera, that's the best he's going to be. Think about this for a moment. When you see Joe Biden fumbling and bumbling and stumbling, that's the best he's going to be today. Every day, it is the job of some medical professional in the White House to look at his schedule and prop him up, shoot him up with B12. I don't know what they're doing, but they're pumping him full of amphetamines. I don't know what they're doing. But it is someone's job to make sure that he is at his best when he's in public. The best you get out of Joe Biden is what you see. Now, that goes for everyone. Don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously, for the most part, if I know that I'm going to be in a public space, I'm going to try to be at my best when I'm in that public space. But sadly, Joe Biden's best is not good enough. Not even close. And the answer to why Joe Biden is not speaking before the American people and really the people of the world today, explaining what in the hell is going on over our airspace with these UFOs, I said it, UFOs. Who knew that at some point in my radio career, I would be sitting seriously in Middle Tennessee telling the listeners of Super Talk 99.7 WTN, one of the greatest talk radio stations in the history of God's green earth, that we have UFOs. And we're shooting them down. And Joe Biden's nowhere to be seen. So I'm going to put all of this together for you on a Conspiracy Monday. And I want to know what you think about it. And I'm going to give you a little teaser as to what I think about it. I think we're doing it. I think these are our objects. They are literally dangling bright, shiny objects in front of us. Anybody ever been fishing? That's how it works. And they've caught us. It's 12:20 on Super Talk. I think we're getting a live look in. Thanks, Tim Melton, by the way. I think we're getting a live look in right now to a press conference going on with John Kirby, who I misidentified last week as a spokesperson for the Pentagon. He's technically a spokesperson for the State Department, okay? So John Kirby is also coordinator for strategic communications, which means you're a press secretary. I don't know why he's saying that. Anyway, he's speaking about all of this that went down over the weekend currently. Let's try to gyp some of this jointed in progress if we can, Bell. John Kirby speaking as we speak at 12:25 Central Time from the White House.
Security, our interest, and flight safety. In Saturday's case, we acted in consultation with the Canadian government, the President speaking personally with Prime Minister Trudeau. The spy balloon was, of course, different because we knew precisely where that was. As we have said, we do not assess that these most recent objects posed any direct threat to people on the ground, and we are laser focused on confirming their nature and purpose, including through intensive efforts to collect debris in the remote locations where they have fallen. In each instance, we have followed the same basic course. We assessed whether they posed any kinetic threat to people on the ground. They did not. We assessed whether they were sending any communication signals. We detected none. We looked to see whether they were maneuvering or had any propulsion capabilities. We saw no signs of that. And we made sure to determine whether or not they were manned. They were not. We did, however, assess that their altitudes were considerably lower than the Chinese high-altitude balloon and did pose a threat to civilian commercial air traffic. And while we have no specific reason to suspect that they were conducting surveillance of any kind, we couldn't rule that out. That is why the President, at the recommendation of the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the NORTHCOM NORAD commander, gave the order to shoot them down. These missions were completed successfully and safely. Efforts are actively underway right now at all sites to find what is left of those objects so that we can better understand and communicate with the American people what they are. I think it's important to remind the objects in Alaska and Canada are in pretty remote terrain, ice and wilderness, all of that making it difficult to find them in winter weather. The object over Lake Huron now lies in what is probably very deep water. So outside of recovery operations, what are we doing? Well, first, we are continuing to monitor. There are no active tracks today, but the professionals at NORAD will continue to do their important work. Secondly, we are consulting with allies and partners on the challenge of identified aerial phenomenon and how we can all work together to deal with that challenge. The President has directed the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and the Director of National Intelligence to engage with their relevant counterparts to share information and to try to gain their perspectives as well. Again, this is an issue that affects everybody around the world. Third, we will continue to brief members of Congress and relevant state leadership on what we are doing and what we learn. The President has made this a very top priority. We have, over the course of just the last few days, and certainly over the course of last week, reached out to inform and brief members of Congress and relevant state governors of the operations that we were conducting and of the recovery operations that are underway. We've also kept Congress briefed generally on this issue of Chinese surveillance balloons, including classified briefings last August. And last week, administration officials provided classified briefings for all senators and all members of the House of Representatives on the PRC surveillance balloon. We fully expect and anticipate and support the ability to continue these briefings in the days ahead. And fourth, the President, through his National Security Advisor, has today directed an interagency team to study the broader policy implications for detection, analysis, and disposition of unidentified aerial objects that pose either safety or security risks. Every element of the government will redouble their efforts to understand and mitigate these events. And I'm happy to take some questions.
Yeah, let's listen to some questions. Super Talk 99.7 WT and John Kirby
The objects don't
speaking.
pose a military threat, and they don't pose a threat to anybody on the ground. Why shoot them down? Particularly because the military is routinely monitoring radar blips.
Good question.
I kind of covered that in the opening statement. Two real reasons here. First, there was a very real potential risk to civilian air traffic. The one shut down on yesterday, was about 20,000 feet. And the two shut down Friday and Saturday were at about 40,000 feet. And as you know, transcontinental air traffic is roughly around 30,000 feet. It depends, of course, on weather. And so because we assessed that they weren't manned and weren't being controlled, therefore left to atmospheric conditions, the real risk to safety of flight was a problem. The second purpose, and I talked about this earlier too, was even though we had no indications that any of these three objects were surveilling, we couldn't rule that out. And so you want to err on the side of safety here in terms of protecting our national security interests, and the fact that these objects could have and likely did at some point in their path transit over potential military sites of ours or sensitive sites. So again, out of an abundance of caution for those two reasons, the president, with the recommendation of his military leaders, directed them to be taken down.
Because it's so unprecedented, should the public be hearing from the president directly on this?
We have been, I think, as
another good
transparent
question.
as we can be.
Where the hell's the president of the United States?
A personal speaking schedule, but I mean, he has been deeply engaged in
where
every
is
one of
he?
These decisions. He's been kept informed, including
Sorry,
as
I
of
get
this
in trouble
morning,
when I interrupt.
on what's going on with recovery efforts, and he's very much staying on top of the issue and directing his team to make sure we are properly consulting and briefing not just members of Congress but state leaders as well, and of course, we're also doing what we can in the public sphere.
Can you give the European countries?
Wait a second, sir. Excuse me.
Thank you, John. What is the president's standard going to be going forward about when he orders an unidentified object shot down?
It comes down to one simple formulation, and that's if at the recommendation of his military leaders he believes that the safety and security of the United States, the safety and security of the American people, his prime responsibility, warrant that kind of a decision.
So it's possible we could see these shoot downs on a regular basis like we saw over the weekend?
I don't think it's useful for me to get ahead of where we are right now. The president will always side on preserving and protecting the safety and security of the American people.
All right, we have to take a quick time out. Pull Kirby down there. We'll continue to monitor him. May go back to that. It's of great interest to me because there's a lot of questions being asked that need answers, and we're not getting a lot of them. And we're certainly not hearing from the president of the United States. One would think when you're shooting down objects unidentifiable where we have no concept of how they're being propulsed, how they're maneuvering, what they contain, how they're going from here to there, how they're staying in the air, you would think that the president might want to come out on a Monday when people start back paying attention from Super Bowl Sunday and say something about it. We'll continue talking about it and get your calls. It's Conspiracy Monday because I'm about to give you a conspiracy that we're doing this to ourselves and that John Kirby's a big fat liar. That's my conspiracy. What's yours? 615-737-9986. I hope I saw some of you at Savory Spice over the weekend. I was visiting, the wife and I, having lunch with some friends in downtown Franklin Saturday afternoon. Stopped by, saw Holly and the rest of the crew at Savory Spice. They're such good people. There were a lot of you there enjoying the incredible spices, the aroma, some of the blends that they have in the Franklin shop. There's one in Nashville, too. More on that in just a moment. But just walking through Savory Spice, I mean, you're inspired, especially if you enjoy cooking. You can up your food game right now by going to Savory Spice, either location in Franklin or in the L&L Market on Charlotte Pike in Nashville. You know, you do what's right by you and your family when you buy the food, right? You buy the non-GMO chicken or whatever it is. You buy the salmon that's, wild salmon. It's not farm salmon. You up your food game when it comes to the beef that you prepare as the meal. Well, now it's time to up that food game when it comes to spices. You buy that nice food and then you grab a spice in the rack that's 5 years old from some crummy grocery store. Don't do this. Go to Savory Spice and you'll see the Savory Spice different. Plus, they have the saffron spice this month. The saffron salt, I should say, this month, which is special to February for you lovers out there on Valentine's Day. Go by and see them. And they're looking for employees in their Nashville location. So if you're looking for maybe a part-time job at a wonderful business full of great people, go by and see them at Savory Spice, either in Franklin, downtown, right next to Gray's Drugstore, or in L&L Market on Charlotte Pike. It's Savory Spice. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're live on a 100,000-watt radio station. Happy to be so. We've got the app up and running. The web stream is going on various platforms. And then there's the brand new Super Talk TV. You can find us on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. And we appreciate your participation in that manner. I mean, for those of you willing to look at my ugly mug for 3 hours a day, God bless you. I appreciate you. We'll try to do our best to entertain. So right now, John Kirby is entertaining a few questions. He is a spokesperson for the Pentagon/State Department. He's at the White House in Washington, D.C. It is Conspiracy Monday. I want to know what you think is really going on, because they won't tell us what's going on. And in an absence of information, we need to fill that void with our own conspiracies. I don't know. It's not a theory if it's true. I'm of the belief that that maybe we're doing this to ourselves. So, we've not seen a photo. Why not? They have them. Why are they not showing us photos? Has no one else gotten a photo? The latest John Kirby statement was that one of these machines was operating at, or whatever you want to call it, was operating at 20,000 feet. Okay. That seems to be low enough where people would get eyeballs on it, maybe a camera on it. I've seen no amateur photographs of the new objects. I've seen no official photographs of the new objects, and I want to know why. Don't call in right now if you're trying to call in, because I got nobody in the control area. So I got a lot of people calling in right now. Kirby says we can't rule out that the objects have surveillance capability. They act like they've got no idea. Surely they have some better idea than they're acting. Let's go back to John Kirby for just a couple of additional moments. And if you were trying to call in moments ago, try to call in now because Bell's back. Go.
What their territory is than the United States. Is there any U.S. surveillance aircraft over Taiwan, over the South China Sea that would fit into that?
There is no U.S. surveillance aircraft over Chinese in Chinese airspace.
Okay, even Chinese claimed airspace.
There is no U.S. surveillance aircraft in Chinese airspace.
Okay, and then just finally, is there any new formal approach that's being developed as far as how you're going to deal with these things on a systematic basis going forward? Is there?
Well, again, that's exactly what the president wants Mr. Sullivan to run as a process, an interagency process, to help us, as I said in my opening statement, get around the policy implications here, and whether or not there needs to be any policy changes going forward.
Thanks, Sean. There's no precedent for U.S. fighters taking down objects over U.S. territory, as far as I'm aware of. I guess my question is, you talked about the tweak in the radar systems.
Yeah.
Has there been a tweak in the threshold for the Pentagon presenting to the president signing off on military action related to anything over our airspace?
I'm not sure I'm following what you
In the way
mean.
the Chinese spy balloon,
Yeah.
the radars were tweaked, which is why you think you're seeing some of these things.
Right.
Has the decision about, or has the threshold for the use of fighters to take down objects also been tweaked? Has it been lowered? Has it been changed? We've never seen this before. All of a sudden we've seen
No, actually, I'm sorry I didn't understand it at first. No, I mean, and you heard General Van Herk talk about this last night. He's using established protocols to engage craft in the air, aircraft in the air, that can be legitimately brought down. And as he said last night, the best way to do that, certainly in a timely and efficient, effective way, was through fighter aircraft and through the Sidewinder air-to-air missiles. And they looked at, and he talked about this, they looked at other options to try to bring them down, to include gunfire, but that would have presented a greater risk to the pilots themselves. So this was the safest, most effective way to do that. Now, where we go from here, I think we just don't know right now in terms of whether there needs to be threshold changes, as you put out. I think it's important to just take a step back here and remember what the president did was order these actions with the safety and security of the American people foremost in his mind. And there were very good reasons to do it. The military then, once given an order, determines how they're going to execute that order. General Van Herk decided that the best way to do this was with Sidewinder missiles and fighter aircraft.
And just to quickly put a sharper point on it, this isn't reactive to the Chinese spy balloon in the sense of there was political pressure, and so we are going to act quickly to take down any objects over our airspace because of the pressure that came from...
It's obvious that's what it was, but whatever.
These were decisions based purely and simply on what was in the best interest of the American people.
Thanks, Corinne. Thanks, John.
We're going to take a few
John,
more of
does the
these.
US government have
It's very interesting to
video
me.
or imagery of these latest intercepts, and will you guys be releasing it?
You'd have to talk to DOD about that, Jackie. I don't know what kind of imagery might exist, and they'd
Then what
be
are you
the ones
standing
to
up there
talk
for,
about
bud?
whether they're releasable or not.
Why don't you have somebody from DOD up
Obviously-
there if you don't have the images?
Certainly with respect to the spy balloon, we want to make sure that we are gleaning what we can from this imagery so that we can answer your questions better. And so to what degree there is or will or will not be public release, I do want to stress that, we're going to want to make sure that we have had a chance to analyze that imagery for ourselves as much as possible.
Following up on Phil's question, I guess what we're trying to discern is, you said earlier, we're looking for these more, so we're finding more. And
I said that could be one reason why we're finding more.
one reason, but what we're getting at is, why are we all of a sudden shooting them down? And to add
That makes
to
the American people feel
NORAD
better.
commander, for instance,
He's insinuating
said
that these have been up there all
when the
along.
first spy balloon was crossing over American and Canadian airspace, one of the reasons that he couldn't take action was because his assessment was that it didn't pose a military threat or have hostile intent, and so he couldn't take action there. It seems like maybe that protocol has changed, or his ability
Yeah,
to make
get
that
him,
call
random
where there's
reporter.
not an imminent
Get
threat
him!
militarily.
What
or
changed,
physically
bud?
Might have changed. So can you explain to us
He's going to say
what changed?
civil.
Why are
He's
we
going to say
shooting them
commercial
down all of a
aircraft.
sudden?
Ready?
I kind
Go.
of feel like I took care of that in my opening statement, but I'm happy to revisit it. I mean, really two reasons here. And these are certainly in both cases, they're different. I mean, I think we need to separate the Chinese spy balloon. We knew what it was. We knew where it was going. We knew what it was trying to do.
You didn't know where it was
And
going.
By not taking
That's not
it
true.
down, I mean, that was also a huge payload. Like I said, the size of 3 school buses. So really the option of shooting that down over land wasn't a legitimate option, because somebody really could have gotten hurt. And we used the time available to us, knowing what this thing was all about. We used that time to study it, to learn from it, to collect on it. Then taking it down at the earliest opportunity in the water. And we have retrieved some of that debris off the bottom, and we're studying that. Hang on a second, I'll be right there. So let's separate that from these other 3. And these other
That's what you want us to do.
What are some of the differences? Altitude's a big difference.
Is that the threshold now? A risk to
Not
civilian aircraft?
let me get through this, and then altitude's different. The Chinese spy balloon was at 60,000 plus, well outside commercial air traffic concerns. These 3 were right on the border of it, so there was a legitimate concern there. Chinese spy balloon, we knew exactly what that thing was, and we knew what it was trying to do, and we saw it, Jackie, as it slowed down, sped up, maneuvered a little bit.
He's trying to win her over, trying to win
sensitive
Jackie the
military space.
reporter over now.
These other 3, they didn't have propulsion. They weren't being maneuvered. It was basically they were being driven by the wind. We don't.
They don't know that, by the way.
We don't
They
know
claim.
for sure whether they had a surveillance aspect to them, but we can't rule it out. So there was enough uncertainty there. That again, out of an abundance of caution,
I got to learn to
doing
close
the
my
prudent
mouth
thing,
on
the president
television.
directed
I look
that
like
they
an
be
idiot.
taken down, and I get where
Remind
you're
me,
going.
would
It's
you?
just the
I'm sitting
standard
up here looking
going
at John Kirby
forward.
like,
We're gonna dive into this. We're gonna learn from these 3 events. We're gonna continue to study what happened. We're gonna have an interagency effort that helps us get around the policy implications here, and we'll see where this goes. But bottom line for President Biden is, you gotta do the right thing for the American people, for our safety and security.
Is it strange that no one's claimed these yet as theirs?
I can't say whether that's strange or not, since we're sort of in uncharted territory here, no pun intended. But we don't know, and I suspect that. Go ahead. I'm basically done. I'm basically done.
Sir, what's your name, sir?
Oh, from CBS.
Okay.
Has the payload been recovered from South Carolina yet?
The
large so-called payload that's...
Yeah, as I said, some of the debris, certainly
That's a no.
they were able to
It's a
take things
no.
off the surface like the next day.
They found the
Actually,
balloon.
that
They haven't found the
afternoon.
payload yet.
Some of the balloon fabric.
He didn't want to tell you that.
And in the days since, they have been able to recover some, not all, of the payload that sank to the bottom of the Atlantic. It's in about 45 feet of water. Weather conditions are pretty tough off the coast right now. Like today, for instance, they have not been able to get into the water and dive on it.
Outside
But
of
over the
the
course of the weekend, they were able to raise some of the debris, including some of the electronics and in some of the structure.
Do you have an expectation of when all that payload is going to be collected?
I don't. I wish if I could tell you that, I'd be a very wealthy man. I mean, it could take a long time, given the sea state and weather conditions and the degree to which we have to protect the safety of the divers.
All right, pull him down for a second. Does anybody buy what he's selling? Man, this is taking a long time. Did he not just say it was in 45 feet of water? Is that what he said? Oh, but it's been real choppy out there, Murph. You know how it gets when you're on the little schooner trying to do some fishing in those choppy Atlantic waters. If our United States military cannot recover this payload in 45 feet of water after we know exactly where it landed when we shot it down, my God, who was it? What was his name that found the Titanic? It was not James Cameron, Bell. Although I wish it were. You know, I mean, this guy found it was like a mile and a half down. We can't find Jack. It's embarrassing. They are not telling us everything they know. And I believe it's because these three balloons, these three whatever you want to call them, UFOs, are from us. That is my conspiracy. What's yours? John Kirby will not talk when we come back. You will. 12:52 on Super Talk. Tennessee Men's Clinic. Let's talk about your testosterone. Gentlemen, I understand that it's a personal subject, but it's time to get personal with your health. It is time to get up close and personal with that T level, because if you're experiencing energy loss, if you're experiencing a little lack of interest in the bedroom, if you don't like going to the gym anymore, if you've lost interest in doing outdoor chores, whatever your situation, if it's an energy-related situation, it is time to get it together and get to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go to the Tennessee Men's Clinic today. They'll do a complete blood sample. It will include a PSA test, amongst other things, and you'll get your testosterone checked. And if your testosterone is lower than it should be, then it's time to get that fixed. There's so many different ways to correct that. You don't have to live with that. And it's through no fault of your own, by the way. A lot of guys shy away from this because they think it says something about their manhood or whatever. No. This is a natural phenomenon that happens to all guys in their middle age, and it's time to get it fixed with Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or 615-208-9090. 208-9090 for Tennessee Men's Clinic. Well, thank you much, Mr. Melton. David, Rick, Chuck, Stan, Jeff, and more are holding for Conspiracy Monday, and I understand we wanted to get to the press conference being conducted by John Kirby. We did enough of that. They're not really telling us any additional information other than they shot these 3 objects down. They don't know what they are. I believe that we launched those objects. The American people need to know the truth, and we'll get to it. What's your conspiracy? 615-737-9986. You can listen or you can watch. SuperTalk TV is up and running in your homes, your automobiles, your places of business on Facebook Live, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. We're back in a moment. 2 more hours to go. For over 30 years, Mark and the Safe House have been keeping you safe and keeping the things that keep you safe, right? Because that's what they do at the Safe House. For the most part, they're selling gun safes, but they're also selling jewelry safes. They're also selling corporate safes, vaults even. If you have a new home that's being constructed, you need to get with Mark and the Safe House and get a big old safe out there before the construction is complete so they can insert it into the home, and then it's a part of the home. Or better yet, if you want to retrofit one right now, they can do that as well. They have the largest selection around. And when I say the largest selection around, I mean around. I mean around the United States of America. Certainly in the Southeast, and I would put it against any selection in the U.S. There's a reason that Mark and his team have been operating for 30 years. They're honest as the day is long. They're not going to lie to you about delivery charges and that sort of thing. They're going to be straightforward with you on that. They're going to have professionals deliver your safe, and they're going to show you how to use it. And they've got the best selection around. I mean, I'm talking anywhere in the United States of America, and the best brands as well. Of course, you know Browning, you know Liberty, you know Fort Knox. They're all there, plus so much more at the Safe House. So go by online and see the incredible selection, NashvilleSafeHouse.com, or better yet, the best way to do it, 4th Avenue South, downtown Nashville, across from City Cemetery. Tell them I sent you to the Safe House. I'm a complete idiot. I was trying to make a joke on TV, and I was holding that up on television. But can you see what that says, Belle? Yeah. It says, help, I'm trapped in here. But I was not holding it up to the camera. I was holding it up to my monitor. I know. I'm an idiot. Hello and welcome to hour number 2. It is 1:07. Happy to have you with us on this Monday edition of the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. There are other matters going on outside of the mysterious objects hovering over the United States of America that we keep shooting down, to include an incredible story out of Ohio. We're not lost on this story, just trying to get our sea legs underneath it. And it is an absolute environmental disaster in East Palestine, Ohio. News reporting that more chemicals have exploded. A train derailed over a week ago. At least the official story is a train derailed over a week ago in East Palestine, Ohio. And that the chemicals were dangerous on the train, so much so that major portions of that area have been evacuated. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency sent a letter to Norfolk Southern stating that several chemicals in the rail cars that breached and were on fire have been deemed to be dangerous to the public. I don't want to get into what these chemicals exactly are because their names are very difficult to pronounce, and I don't think it would further the story except to say it's an incredibly dangerous situation in which you've got literally a mushroom cloud over Ohio. In the meantime, the United States says that they have shot down 3 mystery objects over the United States of America, although they're not really telling us what those mystery objects are because they say they don't know. I have a hard time believing that. There was one that was shot down off the northern coast of Alaska, another that was shot down over Yukon, Canada, another that was shot down near Lake Huron here in the United States of America. I mean, obviously I know that Alaska is a part of the United States. All they're saying is that these were octagon in shaped or circular in shaped, that they posed a real threat to air traffic in the United States. John Kirby just finishing up a press conference. It's Conspiracy Monday on the Murphy Show. I want to hear any and all conspiracy. I will dismiss none of them. I do not believe this story. Why do we not have simple question, which was asked of John Kirby by one of the intrepid reporters there in the White House briefing room, and he did not answer the question. And the question is this: why do we not have photos of any of these objects? Actually, a better question is, why have we not seen photos of any of these objects? If the objects do in fact exist, then one would presume the United States military has photos of them, up close and personal photos of them. You know, right before we shot them down? Why have we not seen those, as the American public deserves to see them? Serious question. There's a hell of a lot that goes on under our nose by the United States military or the FBI or the NSA or the CIA or any of these alphabet soup organizations. And as my grandpa used to say, I'm getting a belly full of it. The hell are these people doing? The American people are the boss. We, the people, control our government, not the other way around. And we ought to demand, while we're worried about the Super Bowl, and I don't begrudge you watching the Super Bowl. I watched the Super Bowl. Bell K came over to the house, had a great time. You saw the photos. If you did not, join us on Facebook, Twitter, etc. And you can see the photos. None of Bell. He politely requested that no photos be taken upon his arrival at my home. I agreed to those terms. Why are we not seeing these pictures? Why are we not getting a better explanation by someone that knows? Now, when John Kirby was asked this, his answer was, well, you have to ask someone from the Department of Defense. Well, then why the hell have you not brought me someone from the Department of Defense? Am I the only one that gets worn out? And I know I do this for a living. I get worn out by these runarounds. Well, we'll have to circle back. You'll have to go to the Department of Defense. You go to the Department of Defense. Well, you have to go to the White House. You go to the White House. Oh, you've got to go over to the FBI. You go to the FBI. Well, you got to go over to the CIA. You go to the CIA. Well, you need to go to the Department of Defense. Well, you go to the Department of Defense. That's the State Department. You go to the State Department. That's the Pentagon. It's on and on. I believe that we put these things up to shoot them down. I don't know why. That is my belief. That's my conspiracy theory. What's yours? I believe that the Chinese spy balloon was such a dadgum embarrassment, and I would have said something else, but I'm trying to be better about my language. It was such an embarrassment that this is designed to be a distraction. Now, what is it a distraction for? Is it there just to make Joe Biden look better? I don't know. I mean, our only other explanations are it's foreign in nature. Well, then if that's the case, we got bigger problems on our hand. Maybe it's an actual, alien-driven UFO. I mean, it's certainly a UFO in the sense that we don't know what's up there. The military does. Why have we not found any of the debris? Oh, it's in very remote areas, Matt. It's almost as if they shot them down in remote areas or claimed they shot them down in remote areas on purpose so we don't find the debris. If this bull malarkey actually happened, why has no one come forward anywhere around Lake Huron, anywhere around the upper wilderness of Alaska, anywhere where one of these objects supposedly appeared? Why has no one come forward saying they saw this? One of the objects they told us was at 20,000 feet. If we put them up there just to shoot them down, what are they trying to cover up? Well, maybe this Ohio deal. I don't believe that Joe Biden thinks enough of the classified document deal to utilize a cover-up of this nature to try to get our attention off of that. You know what I think it's about, though? Nord Stream. There has not been a single bit of reporting on what we uncovered last week on Nord Stream 2. That's a good question. They have fine, well-made handbags and other items for the loved one in your life for Valentine's Day. Not Nordstrom, Nord Stream. Jill does probably shop at Nordstrom. The American people deserve to know the reality of what happened with a Russian-made pipeline headed to Germany. We promised we would blow it up, and we did. And no one in the mainstream media will cover it because That's a government that is currently lying to you about what they did. And you deserve better than that. If I had any guesses, and it's strictly a guess, if my conspiracy theory is correct, that we sent these, quote, man-made objects up, whatever they are, to shoot them down, it is A, to get egg off our face as to what the Chinese did with us with the Chinese spy balloon, and B, to make sure that we're paying attention to the shiny object. I mean, literally, we say this as a joke. Ooh, shiny object, shiny object. That's what they're doing. They're floating a shiny object in the sky so that you will ignore the real things that are going on right here on planet Earth. All right, to you on the phones right now. Rick, you're first up in Columbia. Thanks for your patience, Rick. I do appreciate it. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you, sir. I more than highly agree with your conspiracy theory. I think they get damn sure will. It's all a farce to save face from the blunder of the initial craft they allowed to go across our country 2 or 3 days. You know, earlier you asked, where the hell is our president? We all asked the same question. He's probably somewhere eating ice cream and watching The Wizard of Oz. You know, I was 12 years old during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I distinctly recall...
Hey, Rick. Rick.
Yeah.
Am I on speaker?
Yeah, let me get you off speaker.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Please. And I don't say that to stymie the conversation. The primary reason is it's more difficult for people to be able to understand what you're saying. And I want to make sure every single person understands what you're saying. Rick, you back there?
Yes, sir. My apologies. I got you off speaker.
That sounds perfect. Thank you, Rick.
Should I quickly start over? Or?
No. You were saying that you're in agreement with me that this is an American deal to get our attention off the embarrassment of the Chinese spy balloon. That's what I got.
I do that. That's exactly that. You know, you earlier asked, where the hell is our president? Same question we all have. It wouldn't surprise me if he's not somewhere eating ice cream watching The Wizard of Oz. You know, I was 12 years old during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and to date, I distinctly recall President Kennedy went on TV and addressing the nation, courageously so, making us all abreast of the dire situation and the grim danger involved. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Joe Biden is no JFK. My goodness.
I'll agree with you there. Amen, Rick. I mean, no, you're right. Now, I'm getting a lot, and thank you for the call, Rick, and thank you for your patience. I appreciate it very much. A lot of correspondence from the super text line, almost in uniform agreement, that this is nothing more than a wag the dog event. Send something up so as to shoot it down. Where are the photos of this thing? Where's the debris from these things? Why can't you tell us more about their nature? Why are you not releasing photos? Why has no human on Earth seen them other than supposedly the military itself and the individuals that shot them down? If you were interested in the truth, not only would Joe Biden make himself available to the press, why not make some of these pilots that shot them down available to the press so that we can talk to them? They work for us. No, I think we're in almost uniform agreement that this is not another country. This is not a spy satellite situation or a spy plane or a spy balloon. This is a shiny thing, jingle jangle. When you want the baby to stop crying, you jingle jangle your keys. Oh, look, jingle jangle. It's spinnerbait. It's spinnerbait. That's mind to the baby's mouth. It's spinnerbait. Now, what are they distracting us from? Nord Stream 2? Classified documents? Hunter Biden laptop? The big guy and his foreign entanglements? All of the above. All of the above. Someone, 3036, said Epstein associate list? Maybe. Epstein sex island private jet log? Maybe. I don't like this idea that we're being told by our government that there are things that we don't need to know about. I could count on one hand the number of things that the American people, don't need to know that our government's doing. Like on one hand. If we still believe in a free and open society that believes in rule by the people. Ricky's in Watertown. Ricky, thank you for your call and thank you for your patience. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm fabulous. What's on your mind?
Let me give you some food for thought. What was being brought up before the balloons come around? The Senate was starting to investigate Mr. Hunter Biden and his laptop, plus dear old big man and his damn uncle, and all of a sudden we got the balloon deal. I don't think the first balloon was sent up, but it was kind of coincidental. It, appeared right when we needed it to. We want people to get off Hunter and his laptop. Let's talk about the balloon. And the reason they're like releasing the pictures of the payload or any of that, guess what? When people quit talking about the balloon and start getting back onto the computer, hey, we'll start releasing the pictures. Get them talking about something else. This election year, we can't have that.
Well, Ricky, I agree with everything you said, except if I heard you that last little comment. I don't know that it's an election year nationally. I don't think it is. I don't think any congressional individuals are up for election absent a special one, but it is going to be. Joe Biden wants to run again. He doddering around the White House, kind of likes what he sees, and he thinks that he can manage to do that, I suppose. I don't know. A lot of theories floating around. We'll get to more of them in a moment. It is Conspiracy Monday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 1:22. Stand by. Tim Melton's reporting. Oh, pardon. Talk about teenage girls in a second. I was unaware until I spoke with Johnny B earlier today that today is the 21st anniversary of the death of Waylon Jennings. At least that's what Johnny B told me earlier today. I have no doubt that Johnny B's on top of these things because he far more than, I'm a great fan of Waylon Jennings, but nobody is a better fan of Waylon Jennings than Johnny B. And he was one of the greats. My grandma loved Waylon, and I love him too. Waymore's Blues, my favorite. Nashville Women's pretty good. Lonesome, Ornery, and Mean, pretty good. But Waymore's Blues is probably my fave. No, what Tim Melton was saying about young girls, that young girls have never been more depressed. Get them off social media. Look, my kids are perfect. My kids have never given me back sass. My kids make straight A's. My kids have never had a problem in school. My kids are the homecoming king and queen. My kids are the starting pitcher for the baseball team and the starting quarterback for the football team and the head cheerleader. And mainly it's because they don't exist. My dogs now, they give me trouble. But if I had children, and I'm not wagging my finger at those of you that do, I would suggest that you keep your kid off social media, period. Well, it's harder than you think. I'm sure it's difficult. But I don't think any 13-year-old should be on Twitter. No 13-year-old should be on Instagram. No 13-year-old should be on TikTok, for God's sakes. Nobody should be on TikTok, for God's sakes. Nobody should be on this stuff. Is it any wonder? I'm going to re-up my call to abolish some of these agencies. Belkay made me aware of an old quote from Ron Paul that I'm going to play you at some point today that will illustrate what we're talking about. We have way too much undercurrent of crap going on. One of the reasons, why were they so upset about Donald Trump becoming president of the United States? Were they so afraid of Donald Trump? Or are they afraid of what Donald Trump would expose? More on the way. Let's see, who's been holding the longest? I believe it's been Stan in Nashville. Stan, you've held so long, I'm surprised the UFOs didn't come down and get you. How are you, friend?
It's all right. I just had a couple of theories here. For one, every day the government is quiet, I get more nervous. And two, when Biden came into office, he did away with about everything that Trump had done except Space Force. He left Space Force, and I got to think there may be a good reason for that. What do you think?
Wait. Say that one more time. I lost you right in the middle there. My headphones cut out for just a second. Say it again, Stan.
Oh, when Biden came into office, he did away with about everything that Trump had done except Space Force, and nobody's talked about it since then. Do you think that it's a good idea that he didn't touch Space Force because he knows of something?
Well, Space Force is in its infancy, or is it? That's the big question, right? Because I don't really trust anything that any of these people are telling us anymore. So are you speculating that perhaps this is all a part of that? And, well, you know what? This might be a pretty good theory, Stan, that if the government is furthering its Space Force technology, that maybe this is a good way to be able to fly some of that technology, and just in case someone sees it up in the sky, they have a convenient excuse as to what that is by saying, hey, we shot that down. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah, you're on it now.
Yeah, now, Stan, I like this. This is good. So Stan's theory now, folks, and thank you, Stan, for the call, and thank you for holding. I appreciate you. I want to get to as many as I can. Stan's theory is, it's good. I like that. So Space Force continued. We have technologies that the average person has no idea exists. But now we've gotten to the point that we need to test that technology in open air. Well, the only way to do that is to risk that people would see it. So you make this cock and bull story up about, oh, it's a weather balloon or whatever, or a spy balloon or whatever. That gives you the ability to fly these things around. Then you claim to have shot them down. So just in case anybody gets a picture of it, just in case anybody gets wind of it, just in case anybody sees it, you've got your story ready-made. I like that, Stan. That's good. 131 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
was drizzling rain. Around the curve come a passenger train. Heard somebody yodel and a hobo moan.
Jimmy, he said it's been a long time gone, been a long time gone. Well, hello, 138, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Just give me 20 seconds of Waylon. This is a great song. One of his best, my favorite, as a matter of fact. Want to get to heaven?
Get to heaven, got a D-I-E. You gotta put on your coat and T-I-E. Wanna get the rabbit out the L-O-G. You gotta make a cold motion like a D-O-G.
Like a D-O-G. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We are, Johnny B told me this. It was February 13th, 2002, the day that Waylon passed away. And we were talking about that earlier today. I said, well, why not play a little Waylon Jennings? All right, back to your calls. It is Conspiracy Monday on the Matt Murphy Show. It doesn't necessarily have to be about these objects that we are reportedly shooting down from the sky, although I have my doubts. If we are shooting them down from the sky, I believe that we put them up there to begin with, and I think this is all about distracting us from other things. Maybe distracting us from the embarrassment of the Chinese spy balloon. Maybe distracting us from the fact that we clearly blew up the Nord Stream pipeline and blamed it on the Russians themselves. Maybe it's distracting us over the fact that the Republicans in Congress are getting to the bottom of the Hunter Biden laptop scandal and the fact that Joe Biden and his brother were enriched through the shenanigans of Hunter, through the Biden name, while he was vice president of the United States. A clear violation of the law. Maybe this is about the classified documents that have been found at Hunter Biden's house. Maybe it's about something more. I'll tell you this. We need to take a hard look at some of these alphabet soup agencies. The ATF, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the DOJ, all of them. All of them. And I will start with the FBI. The FBI has always, as I've said to you in the past, look, and I understand there are good people that work for the FBI. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about collectively the group, primarily the group in Washington, D.C. For far too long, we've allowed them to violate, with a fair amount of regularity, our individual civil liberties because of the concept of safety and security. And, their work is so important. But that organization is set up by design to violate your civil liberties. And unless there is a robust oversight, they will. And there isn't, so they do. I can't be plainer than that. Unless there is incredible oversight on behalf of the American people as to what the FBI engages in, by design, the FBI will begin to violate your civil liberties. And because there isn't that oversight, there is the violation. 615-737-9986. I'm very curious about line 2. Jim is in Ridgetop. Jim, what's going on? How are you?
Yes. I don't know if you saw the report. Channel 17 reported that there were maybe 2,000 Hispanics standing outside of a Hispanic church on Dickerson Road this morning. And the report was that they were waiting to get passports from the Venezuelan consulate. And I'm wondering if this is going on not just in Nashville, but other cities simultaneously. And maybe that's the thing they want the news media to not see.
Oh, boy, oh, boy. Now, this is what I saw. I did not see the report, but I'm looking on the Fox 17 website right now, Jim. And it says, and you can fill in some of these gaps if you saw the report, crowds of people flooding next to Dickerson Pike Monday morning, causing traffic and congestion for morning commuters. Long lines formed along the roadway and around the corner near a church called Casa de Dios USA.
Right.
Fox 17 confirmed the event was for people who, quote, needed to renew documents. The hell does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know, but they interviewed one person, and they said this person was waiting to get a passport, and they thought that was what everybody was waiting for. So I'm wondering if they're, for some reason, giving these bunch of illegals that have crossed in here passports to keep them here or something. But,
wouldn't that be just like the plan, right? I mean, the plan is to get them in here and then document the undocumented for the hope that 8 out of 10 of them will vote Democrat, right?
Right, and if it's going on in a whole bunch of cities all at once, and that could be the thing they don't want us to focus on. That plus we got the Super Bowl to talk about, so perfect time to cover it up.
Jim, I love this, and you know what? I don't call these. I've got to come up with a new name for Conspiracy Monday because these are too good to be called conspiracies. Because I would agree with you. I mean, this is. Thank you, Jim, for the call. This is the exact type of thing that they would want to avoid us talking about. But Jim's too smart for that. So, according to the report that I'm looking at Fox 17, and maybe someone else can fill in additional information on this, first I'm hearing about it. This morning on Dickerson Pike, they had to direct traffic and navigate overflow of traffic because of the amount of Hispanics. I'm identifying them by their identity group only because I don't know more about them, but merely based on the photographs that I see on Fox 17 alone. These are largely Hispanic individuals. I have no idea whether they're in the country legally or illegally. One would presume that there are some that are in the country illegally, just based on raw data, raw numbers. I'm not trying to speculate or stereotype, just raw numbers dictate. That if raw numbers tell you if you have 10 Hispanics standing in front of you, 4 of them are illegal. That's what the data tells you. At least. Illegally coming into the United States of America. That's the identifier I'm using. I'm not trying to use that term as a pejorative. I'm not trying to use it as in some way saying that they're less than human. They're human beings, and they should be treated as such with respect, but illegal is illegal. Right? So we have large groups of Hispanic individuals in the city of Nashville. Question is this happening elsewhere around the country? And I like Jim's theory that perhaps that's what they're trying to we look up and we don't look out and we miss something. Cindy, you're coming up. Larry is next in Clarksville, wants to talk about UFOs. Hello, Larry. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Matt. And, I'm with you. First of all, I knew 2 days after this first balloon was spotted that we had U2s following it and recording it. I knew that we spotted the darn thing when it first left its own airspace, and we tracked it. There's not a missile out there, Matt, that does not have a high-resolution camera on it that will follow itself right into the target, and it is automatically transmitted back to the ground. Just like with the drones over Afghanistan, you can watch the video of the bombs and the missiles going into these bunkers.
I've seen the videos. I know exactly what you're talking about. One would presume, and you're telling me, Larry, that this technology exists on every missile fired by the United States military. So that begs the question: why have we not seen the fire? Why have we not seen it?
Well, and here's the other thing, Matt. Anytime there is a scramble, an active air defense scramble on a target, a suspected target, there's what's called an eyeballer and a shooter. The eyeballer goes in and makes an identification pass. The shooter hangs back, arms his weapons, and locks on to the target in case that target does any kind of hostile action. And each one of those interceptors have high-resolution cameras on them. They know exactly what they're shooting down. But they do an eyeball pass so that the pilot himself sees it. I could sit here, Matt, for 30 minutes and shoot holes in every one of the things.
Larry, did you and I communicate over the weekend?
Yes.
So Larry has and I don't want to I don't want to say too much, but Larry we communicated via Facebook over the weekend, and I'm so glad you called Larry. Larry has very intimate knowledge about this. I'll let you say as much as you want to say about how you have this knowledge, but I am convinced that Larry knows a good deal about how all of this shakes out based on your, 30 years of experience?
I'm not going to say how many.
Well, there you go. So that's fine, but I'm comfortable in it, and I won't say any more than that. So you are comfortable with the knowledge that any pilot that shot down a mystery craft or a mystery object in the sky, he had visual of that object, and he eyeballed it personally prior to shooting it. Yes. And then they have video. So why are they being so? Why are they being so dangerous? Why are they? This is dangerously coy on the part of the United States of America. Why are they being so vague and obtuse, Larry?
Because they're covering up something. I truly believe that first spy balloon was exactly that, a Chinese spy balloon. I also truly believe from the bottom of my heart that they let it traverse. Joe Biden let it traverse the entire country to gain however much information China wanted, because you can obtain more information from a slow moving object that can sit and hover and can pick up all kinds of things that a satellite cannot pick up.
I think we're about to hit on it, Larry. You just said something. A light bulb just went on over my head. I want to before I lose it.
All right, yeah.
You allow the Chinese to spy on the United States of America. And then how do you cover it up? By sending up some random nonsense to be, quote unquote, shot down by the U.S. military. So everyone's talking about these, quote unquote, UFOs. Now we're not talking about why we allowed the Chinese to traverse the greater part of the continental United States of America over a series of it was over a week without doing anything about it. And what did they collect?
Exactly.
So you bury the Chinese spy balloon underneath a mountain of these mystery balloons, and the compliant media goes on.
After China told Joe it was okay to shoot it down because they'd gotten everything they got.
That's right. Sending it back to their spy satellites and back to the Red Chinese.
Right. And the fact that they've still got enough info on Joe and Hunter for them to know if he does anything other than what they tell him to do, they can bury him and listen, some Republican members of the Congress too.
You know, I wish I could say this call is comforting me, Larry. It's scaring the hell out of me.
Well, it scares me too, Matt. I have to stop and take breaths so that I don't get put on super secret probation, because I'm about to lose my brain. And I don't have much, I'm not going to be like Jim. You're not going to say I'm a smart caller, and I'm not, but I know what I know.
Well,
I can't really say how.
I know. Well, I have faith based on our private conversations that you know where you're coming from, and you do know what you know. And I'm respectful of the fact that you can say what you can say, and you can't say any more than that. But you just share with us what you feel comfortable sharing with us when you call in. But please, keep me in the loop as to where I'm veering off the reservation and when I'm on point, okay?
I absolutely will, Matt. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate your call, and I appreciate the level of expertise. Just trust me when I say, and I'm not trying to compromise the man, that he's bringing a certain area of expertise in all of this that is very, very important. And that is how these operations happen and how they don't, and what goes on and what doesn't, and what has to happen in order for an engagement like what went down over the weekend to occur. And we're being lied to. And I'm beginning to believe that it's nothing more simple than Joe Biden is compromised by the Chinese because of his son and because of his brother and because of the money that he made as a result of that engagement. And because of that compromise, Joe Biden allowed the Chinese to spy on us. And he had to do something to cover it up. So now we're not talking about the spy balloon and why they haven't lifted the payload off of a seafloor that's 45 feet down. Are you kidding me? And John Kirby today blaming choppy waters? You're talking about a United States military that can land an aircraft on an aircraft carrier during a hurricane. Come on, man. Come on, man. 153 on Super Talk. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is located in Franklin, a short drive anywhere within the sound of my voice. Let's talk about what they can provide for you, because for the last 30 years, they've been providing incredible decompression therapy that has changed the game in Nashville, in Middle Tennessee, and across America as to how we deal with some of these ailments. It used to be that once a disc was pinched, it was pinched, or once it was herniated, it was herniated, whatever. Now you can use decompression technology at the Dr. Gill Center to stretch you back out, to get you hydrated, get those discs, if you will, breathing again, and to alleviate some of that nerve pain or that spinal pain that you currently have. You've been dealing with for years. I mean, in some cases, for years. I want you to call the Dr. Gill Center today. Set up an appointment, and right now it's just $23. I'm going to reach down and get that new telephone number that I need to deliver to you, because they've got a new number that they want you to use for this $23 deal. It's $23, a complete examination, a conversation with one of the fine doctors. They have a team of specialists at the Dr. Gill Center. And secondarily, they'll give you x-rays and results. So here's that number, 615-882-4838, 882-4838 for the Dr. Gill Center. right, friends. So let's say that your heat goes out. What do? I mean, what's your immediate reaction? Do you have a number to call? Do you have a person that you trust? Do you believe that the person that you call to your home will get there, diagnose your situation, tell you up front what's going down, exactly what it's going to cost, not overcharge you, not charge you overtime, no matter what time it is, and do what they say they're going to do for the right price? I have the name. It's Jeff Eddy. I have the company. It's Efficient Heating and Cooling. Now, you certainly don't want to overpay, obviously so. But when it comes time to replace that unit, you don't want to overpay then either. One, you want to trust that it's time. Two, you want to make sure that you're getting a good deal. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric, an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. EfficientHVAC.net is the website. EfficientHVAC.net or 615-784-4424. Once again, 784-4424. I trust him. I know you can as well. Call the man with the plan, Jeff Eddy, and Efficient Heating and Cooling. It is a Conspiracy Monday on the Matt Murphy Show. We continue 206 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So we're monitoring activities in Washington, D.C. with regard to these mystery objects that have been shot down over the weekend. What are they and why are we shooting them down? A lot of opinion on the Super Text line, a lot of opinion being shared on our phone lines as well. 615-737-9986. You can also find us. I'm back up and running on Super Talk TV. That would be on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. We're also podcasting on Apple now, which is pretty cool. That's a great platform, and that is a way for you to catch up on all of the show, right? So typically, if you join us on 997WTN.com, our own illustrious Mr. Producer, Mr. Bell, will post any number of snippets from the show, just little teasers, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe an interview here or there. But now on Apple Podcast, you can get the entirety, the whole thing, the whole shebang. We do that on our side of things because of limited bandwidth, but we are not so encumbered when it comes to Apple. So there you go. If you want to catch up on the entire show, maybe you missed the lunchtime hour from noon until 1 and want to catch up on that, you're welcome to do so. We're taking your conspiracy theories as to what the hell's going on in our skies, whether or not it's a huge distraction. Some have suggested it's a distraction about what's going on in Ohio. Any self-respecting or aware president of the United States would have either not hired or long ago fired Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg, I can do nothing but say it the way that it is. And I don't feel the need to qualify it because I know how I lead my life, and I know my friend groups, and I know that I don't judge those based on what they choose to do in their own home, so long as they're not violating the laws of the state of Tennessee or their local communities. I'm saying this as a preface to tell you this. The only reason that Pete Buttigieg is the transportation secretary is because he's gay. Is that a controversial statement? It seems to me that everything the Biden administration does when it comes to filling important positions, they do to check boxes as opposed to finding the people that are the best people for the job in question. And I'm at a loss, and I don't say that flippantly, and I don't say it in a way to seem harmful to the homosexual community. That's not the purpose of that comment. The purpose of the comment is that we've got to call this like it is. We got to say it like it is. All I can do is lay it down there where the goats can graze on it. The only reason that Pete Buttigieg is the transportation secretary is because he's gay. Otherwise, why is he there? If not to check a box. He has zero transportation experience outside of being a pretty bad mayor and a pretty bad presidential candidate. And following suit, he has been a pretty bad transportation secretary and answerable to no one about nothing. over and over again. We hear of transportation issues around the United States of America, primarily in the air. How many near misses are we going to have at America's airports without questioning whether or not the Secretary of Transportation is allowing his laissez-faire attitude with regard to transportation in this country to filter down to the rank and file? I know you can't blame every singular event on the higher-ups, but let's talk about this. When we went through COVID and our truckers desperately needed us at their side, the American people went to the side of the truck drivers, but Pete Buttigieg didn't. He sided with big government. You mask up, you shut down, all of these things. We sided with truckers, the lifeblood of the American economy, the American truck driver. When all of those trucking issues went down, Pete Buttigieg was nowhere to be found. Pete Buttigieg, instead of actually dealing with some of our infrastructure and transportation issues, wants you to believe that our roads are racist. Mainly the interstates, but mostly all the roads. I mean, let's see, in Nashville, where would Pete Buttigieg aim? He would aim his fire probably at I-40. I think I-40, when it was originally built, was cutting through a primarily African-American community, so I-40 is the easiest target there. You know, your roads are racist. He was going through all of that. In the meantime, the roads are falling apart. American air travel is falling apart. And Pete Buttigieg is nowhere to be seen. I mean, does the buck not ultimately stop with him when it comes to air travel or train travel? And that leads me to the latest. We have a train derailment in Ohio of hazardous materials that has led to an explosion which literally has presented itself as a mushroom cloud over the state of Ohio. Major swaths of, New Palestine have been evacuated. And where the heck is Pete Buttigieg? Is he back on paternity leave or maternity leave or whatever the hell he's on? Any self-respecting president would have fired this jackass by now. Any aware president, any president that had a pulse. Yet we allow this to go on. In the meantime, our airspace is being invaded, which I would think has something to do with transportation, right? And he's also nowhere to be seen. Where's the president of the United States on all of this? And in the meantime, what do? We look up. We're looking up. We're looking up for the next mystery object in the sky, which I think is a great distraction. Some of your thoughts on this on the super text line have been absolutely fabulous. Remember the close encounters when the military faked an anthrax scare to evacuate 20 square miles around Devil's Tower for the big meeting of the extraterrestrials? I do, and I think of it. He's a man. He's raising babies. He evacuated. Booty head can kiss my... Well, I'm not saying that word on the radio. Keith says, Matt, go ahead and tell us the only reason Kamala is vice president, too. Well, guys, I don't have to say this. Joe Biden said it. Joe Biden promised on the campaign trail that he would pick an African-American female to be his vice president. Did he not? He promised that he would pick an African-American female to be his first selection on the United States Supreme Court. I'm not against African-American females being in positions of political power. Hell, if I lived in Davidson County, right now the front runner that would have my vote for mayor of Nashville would be Natisha Brooks, African-American female. This has nothing to do with color and nothing to do with gender. It has everything to do with qualifications. And when you eliminate 94% of the population before you start deciding who's going to be your VP, or before you start deciding who's going to be your press secretary, or before you start deciding who's going to be a Supreme Court nomination, you're probably eliminating some pretty good candidates. The same with the transportation secretary. Let's be honest. These are affirmative action hires, and these are not the best and brightest people for the job. Is there any wonder that we've seen two We almost saw, 200 people die on a tarmac on a Southwest flight because they can't get their crap together. And in the meantime, we're talking about mystery objects and they can't even show us a photo? Is anyone else tiring of this? I know I am. 7434. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about reports. There was an English writing and Western-made parts on the balloon that got shot down off the coast of South Carolina. I feel some of that payload may never reach the surface. I don't think they're going to get any of it. And it's in 45 feet. They're going to get it. They're not going to tell us they're getting it. They're going to get it and make it go away. Here's my prediction on all of this on Conspiracy Monday, okay? Which I've enjoyed so much, we might do it every Monday. Who knows? I do like the idea of guestless Monday because it does give me a chance to go over the news of the weekend and talk directly to you. I think all of this is slowly going to go away and we'll never have answers. That's the goal. They have a compliant enough media that will play the part for a little bit of time. Now, why is this happening? Why do we have mystery objects? Why do we have things that we can't identify flying around the United States of America? And there's far more to this story than just, who knows? We decided to shoot them down. You didn't shoot the Chinese spy balloon down. That's interesting. And you let it traverse the entirety of the United States of America, but you shot these other things down pretty quick, and now you can't give us a photograph of them. Hey, real quick, Defense Secretary Austin has now commented on what's going on. He did so moments ago in Brussels. Can you jip this real quick? Let me see if we can get a little.
Each of them presented a risk to safety of flight. And we don't know if they were actually collecting intelligence, but because of the route that they took, out of an abundance of caution, we want to make sure that we have the ability to examine what these things are and potentially what they were doing.
All right, there he is.
The Defense Secretary is in Brussels.
Yeah, you can kill that. That is the Defense Secretary from our feed giving us, a lot of nothing, a lot of hot air. Hey, Matt, on the super text line, I wonder which of these unidentified objects had Hunter's laptop on it. That's pretty funny. I don't know how much Red writes in a very important point. While conspiracy theory Monday is ongoing, Red wants to know. Trust me, he says. I don't put anything by Biden, and I believe he's compromised by China and allowed the first balloon to traverse across the United States. But explain to me your rationale that the military would help him in this. Who would have put these other balloons into the air? Next up, Biden will allow gladiator contests to distract the masses. Well, I wouldn't put the last part past him, Red. Now, I understand. Look, I'm calling it conspiracy theory for a Monday because I don't have all of the jigsaw puzzle pieces to put this puzzle together so we can all see the mosaic. But I believe the military has a vested interest in keeping Democrats in charge. They sure as hell have a vested interest in keeping people like Donald Trump away from information. We saw that while Trump was president. Remember when Milley said that he would call the Chinese before the president? General Milley, one of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said that he would call the Chinese instead of the president. Just let that sink in for a minute. All right, in the meantime, we had this story that came up last hour that I'm trying to get more information on. It's in Nashville. Apparently, crowds of people this morning were flooding to Dickerson Pike. Most of these people were Hispanic. Long lines were forming along a roadway and around a corner near a church, which is called Casa de Dosa USA. According to Fox News, and I'm looking into other sources now, they confirmed the event was for people who, quote, needed to renew documents. What does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, what documents do you have that expire that you need renewal on that you can't go to the proper authorities to get renewal on? Why would you need to do this by name alone, I'm going to make an assumption, I think it's a safe one, that this is a Hispanic church. I mean, don't you agree that Mr. Producer, don't you agree that would be a good, a safe assumption? The church is called Casa de Dosa USA. I'm going to assume that that's a Hispanic church. Thank you. So, what documents are you getting renewed there that you can't get renewed at your typical place of renewal if you are here legally? So, one could extrapolate based on the idea that you can go to the DMV to renew your driver's license. You can go any number of places to renew your passport. I mean, there might be a legitimate answer to this, by the way. I don't know. That doesn't involve these being illegal aliens. It might be that they're renewing their work visas. I don't know. I don't know. But I think it merits asking the question, is this happening just in our fair city, or is it happening in other places? Yes, Casa de Dios is House of God. I get it. Yes. Thank you, 7176. Thank you. Habla Español? That's always my answer. ¿Cómo está, amigo? Habla Español? I'd prefer not. 615-737-9986. We continue Conspiracy Theory Monday. Plus, the best and worst of Super Bowl ads. I won't spend a long time on it, I promise. But that's coming up. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you, Tim Melton. 225, almost 226. Hey, Waylon.
Never meaning no harm.
Bingo, you ever harming in trouble with the law since the day they was born.
Straightening the curves.
Oh, yeah. I would agree with that.
Flattening the hills.
Mr. Producer in there says it was definitely his best song. I don't think there's any doubt based on the popular. Well, most well known. Yes, most identifiable would be the Dukes of Hazzard. I don't have any doubt about that. Well, I mean, Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys is close. Only Daddy That'll Walk the Line is not close, but it's a good one. And it's probably right up there in terms of Waylon Jennings' identifiable tunes. No, not Lonesome. What one am I? I've always been Crazy and Ramblin' Man are pretty recognizable too. All right, 615-737-9986. Jeff's in Portland next on a Conspiracy Monday. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Hey, Matt. So I've got 2 points I'd like to make. First is with regards to the flying objects, regardless of what they are, we know that how the message is being handled is 100% in information operations because this administration can't level with the American people about anything. It's always to control a narrative to achieve some type of political outcome. And then number 2, one of the potential distractions it could be is the Rage Against the War Machine rally that's going to happen this weekend in D.C. and a lot of the cities around the country. Because I tell you, if the middle class, the common people in this nation could ever get together, I'm talking about of different political stripes, if they could ever get together, we would change things. And the establishment is afraid of that.
I've long said there are very few things, and Jeff, hang in with me here and tell me what you think. So I've named 2 things that I believed would cause people taking up arms in the streets. One is an attempt to eliminate the Second Amendment of the Constitution, our right to keep and bear arms. A real attempt, like something that was tangible and looked like it was about to happen. I also believe that the American people would rally together, under certain circumstances based on a curtailing of liberties. I don't know. There are very few things that I think people would take to the streets for in America because we believe that we can go to the ballot box. That's the way that we do it. But I think we're getting to a point in this country where we potentially are at an impasse in terms of opinion. And the liberals in the United States have most of the government bureaucracy in their corner, all of these alphabet soup agencies, most of which need to be dismantled, in their corner. They have the mainstream media, and maybe I should have named them first, right there solidly in their corner. And I see a growing effort on the part of the American people to push back as we are fed up. And I'm not talking about violence. I'm not talking about any of that. I just wonder what will the rallying cry be when the people finally decide that they've had enough of it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough question, Matt. I agree with you. But if there ever is a true realization that our so-called leaders of both political parties are not working for us, and I don't see that changing until somehow we come together and change it and make them change, force them to change. Whether that's just calling out both political parties, and I'm not talking about a third party necessarily, but I'm talking about saying we will not vote for either party because you're both rotten. And
part of the genesis, and thank you for the call this afternoon, Jeff. This is very, very weedy, but I think we need to talk about it. Part of the issue here is the general apathy of over half of the population. Over half of the voting age population is not paying attention to what their government's doing to them. This creates a dynamic by which the mainstream media can dictate what's important and what's not important. When people aren't getting to the truth themselves, when people aren't digging themselves for the real deal, then the mainstream media decides that the Super Bowl and the Rihanna halftime show, love it or hate it, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you love it or hate it. If you're talking about it, you're paying no attention to Nord Stream 2. If you're talking about it, you're paying no real attention to Ohio. If you're talking about the Super Bowl and whether or not it was holding, and I think we can chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. Sadly, most don't. So I've never been, quote, against talking about pop culture issues, but sadly, I recognize that the more that we do that, it lends that 60 or 70% of the population that don't pay a bit of attention to what's truly going on around them. They just dig further into their social media platforms and Rihanna's outfit and how pregnant is she and all of these things and ignore the real important stuff that's going on. And that lends power to the media conglomerates. And yeah, I'll even include Fox News. Now, Fox News is not nearly the issue that the others are, but in some ways, they're not telling us the true deal either. They're far better than any of their competitors. But the media, their complicity in this and the manner in which they decide on what to report and what not to report is one of the most shameful, disgusting abdications of responsibility in American history. And it will lead to the end of the United States. Because most media has become state media. If it is not media for the people, if they are carrying water for the state, they are a de facto agent of the state. And when we have media that is state media and to the exclusion of other media sources, and when we begin to see an elimination of other media sources, like talk radio, for example, maybe that'll lead to people taking to the streets. I don't know. And if you don't believe me, real quick, and I know we got to get into news. I'm late. I apologize. Ask yourself what the media would be doing with the mystery balloon story if Donald Trump were president of the United States. Ask yourself that. And ask yourself why they're just believing every damn thing the Biden administration tells them. More in a moment, 2:33, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, dear friends. Let's talk for a moment about your health. I don't want to get too personal, but do you feel a little overweight? Are you bloated after all of that Super Bowl food? Maybe you're not feeling yourself. Maybe you're tired of taking all the pills that you have to take on a day-to-day basis. Whatever your reason, I want you to go to your website, and I want you to go to lt360.com, your web browser of your choosing. Go there and find out additional information about LT360 on your own time, and then sign up for dinner and discussion with yours truly, Matt Murphy, Coach Scott, and the rest of the team at LT360. I know you'll be happy that you did. It's at the Williamson County Chamber of Commerce at 6:30 on the 22nd of February of no cost to you. All you have to do is sign up, you get dinner, and we'll have a great conversation. You'll hear me speak for a few minutes, and then Coach Scott will answer all of your questions about the program that's not a weight loss program by design. It is a cellular health program that's going to get you healthy on the lower levels, the real levels, the cellular levels. So sign up today by going to lt360.com. Once again, that's lt360.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Matt Murphy Show continues. We're live on Talk TV, WTN TV up and running on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, 4 different platforms thus far. And believe it or not, for those of you watching on YouTube TV or Facebook or TN TV, see, all this back here, that's not going to be like that forever. We're going to fix that. We look forward to fixing that. We've got other things going on in the studios that I'm excited about too. I'm thinking that these studio lights have fixed the lighting issues that we had when we first launched. I mean, we were born, and then we just kind of laid there for a minute, and then we waddled around, and now we're crawling, and before you know it, we'll be walking, and then we'll be running. It's Conspiracy Theory Monday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Greg is next in Franklin. Hey, Greg, glad you called. I was in your fair city over the weekend. Always love it down there.
Yeah, it's beautiful down here. The reason I called is about Pete Buttigieg. I had the privilege of I don't know about privilege, but I lived in northern Indiana until 5 years ago when we moved down here. Worked in the Mishawaka, South Bend area. When I found out he was going to be the transportation secretary, I about choked. When he became mayor, first of all, he was a city councilman for about 6 months. He ran for mayor, was losing in the race until he came out as gay. Then all of a sudden he skyrocketed to the top. So I know what you mean by getting positions based on your sexual orientation, I guess. One of the things that I choked on when I found out he was the transportation secretary, while mayor in South Bend, he made some changes to some roads in that town. US 31 goes right up through Indiana, right into South Bend. On the south side, it split to a northbound 31 was 4 lanes, 3 or 4 lanes northbound one way, all the way to almost Notre Dame. And then on the west side, a block over was southbound lanes, which worked great because you could get through town no problem. In his judgment, he was going to get rid of stoplights. So he converted that northbound 4 lanes into a two lane road with a center turn lane and roundabouts at every intersection. The problem was, after they got it all done, the semis couldn't make the turns. They couldn't get to the businesses because their roundabouts were too small.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but that's funny, isn't it?
Oh, it was ridiculous. No one even thought about that stuff. So the semis coming up 31 for deliveries had to go around the west side on the bypass about 3 or 4 or 5 miles out of their way to make deliveries to some of the businesses. Some of the businesses they couldn't get to anymore, they had to close their doors because they were paying extra delivery charges to have their loads cross-docked at another facility, put on smaller trucks, and brought to their stores. They couldn't afford the double charge, and a lot of those businesses went out. And it was all because of his brainchild idea of making that a 2-lane road with roundabouts on it, which, by the way, Indiana's the same as Tennessee. Nobody knows how to use a roundabout. It's ridiculous.
No, roundabouts are wonderful things if people know how to use them in certain circumstances, but not in every circumstance. And we've got a few of them here in Nashville, obviously, and most people don't, especially the 2-lane. The one around the what is that on Korean Veterans Boulevard? The one with all the sticks. It's a 2-lane. I think it's actually 3-lane, and people don't get it. They don't understand that, when to be in the center lane, when to be in the right lane. But other than that, they can be good things. But, I mean, the bottom line in your call here, Greg, is that Pete Buttigieg wasn't good with transportation in South Bend, Indiana, much less in the entire United States of America.
Well, he was a failure of pretty much everything. And again, what really irritated me, he'd been the mayor for probably less than a year or two, and because he was gay, all of a sudden he was a candidate for president of the United States. The guy had like 6 months on the city council board. That was his first elected position, and then he became mayor. He had no experience. There was no way he was going to be a good president. There was no way, and it was all because he was gay. That was it.
How I don't see any harm in saying the obvious, and thank you, Greg, for the call. How old is Pete Buttigieg? I was thinking about this while Greg. Guess how old Pete Buttigieg is. I don't think he could run for president if he was that young, but. Oh, wait, you're not supposed to be talking to me. Oh, are you? Oh, you're the only one I'm hearing. Okay, 39. He's 41. 41 years of age. Vehicle fire on Interstate 24 westbound. All lanes blocked. Well, there you go. That's from our intrepid Mr. Producer over in the news area, covering that for you. No Mac Morey today. Mac's back tomorrow. Tim Melton, obviously, in for Mac all afternoon. And so we'll keep you up to date with all of that as it goes on. 41 years of age, born in 1982. Now, look, I don't care how old you are if you're able to do your job. But it did not seem that he was able to do his job in South Bend, Indiana, at least from people who were there, much like the previous caller. And he's not been very good at his job as transportation secretary either. I have a feeling that more individuals would be calling him out if, A, he weren't a Democrat, and B, you weren't gay. But they use these identity placards as shields. We can't call Karine Jean-Pierre awful at her job for fear that we will be accused of doing so because she is African American and she is gay. I don't care what her color is, and I don't care what her sexuality is. I truly do not. I do care that she's horrible at her job. I don't even care if she lies to me. Just be good at it. Pete Buttigieg, and on and on and on it goes. So in the meantime, while you've got a mushroom cloud over the state of Ohio because of a train derailment, that is a transportation issue. And yeah, if you have a Secretary of Transportation, tell me what they do. If not this. If not to avoid plane mishaps. We've seen 2 or 3 near misses over the past 3 months. I thought of the other thing that I was thinking of earlier. You might have, loyal listeners might have realized, I had 2 and I could only come up with one of them. One of them slipped my mind. We had a previous caller that was talking about individuals getting upset about what's going on in their country and taken to the streets, not in a violent way whatsoever, but in a way that will show the numbers that we have behind us saying we need to get back to American values and American roots. We need to make America great today, tomorrow, and in the future for our children. And overspending is not the way to do that, and more centralized government is not the way to. I've always believed that a real attempt to destroy the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, if there was a concerted effort to repeal the Second Amendment and to collect guns, that would create a dynamic by which people would get to the streets en masse, countrywide. And I had the other one and I couldn't remember it for some reason, and it's odd because I've been talking about this for years. The other thing that would take people to the streets, even into the state of Tennessee, and not so much in the state of Tennessee, but even in the state of Tennessee, one of the more subtle and dastardly things that the federal government has ever done to its populace is withholding. In other words, they withhold the money that they get from your check before you see your check. And a lot of Americans, and I'm not trying to talk down to you, you're the smartest listeners on planet Earth. A lot of Americans, if I said to you, if I said, Bell, how much do you make? If I felt comfortable enough asking you how much you make, many of you, not all, but many of you would give me an amount that was take-home pay. How much do you make every couple of, how often do you get paid is the first question. How often do you get paid? I get paid every 2 weeks. How much do you make? They would tell you what they see in their bank account every 2 weeks or twice a month or what they see on their paycheck. You understand how psychologically dastardly that is? They take it before you see it. The Fed, Social Security, FICA, etc., they get their money before you see it. If the American people were required to write a check every month, and I say a check, that's kind of a dated reference, but if you were required to pay your tax bill on a monthly basis, the same way that you pay your mortgage, the same way that you pay your rent, the same way you pay your electricity bill, if you paid your taxes to the feds, and for most states, to the state, in the same fashion, we'd have a tax revolt. People would really begin to understand the amount of money they're paying so other people don't have to. Half of the country doesn't pay federal income tax. Do you think those people are voting for more government or less? What do they care? They're not paying for it anyway. We continue Conspiracy Monday on The Murphy Show. It is 2:50 on Super Talk. Uh-huh. One of my faves. Oh, Waylon. Bob Wills is still the king, one of my faves, too. I'd forgotten about that one. A lot of you suggesting some good Waylon tunes on this anniversary of his death 21 years ago. All right, let's finish up with some bad news, good news, shall we? Bad news. I don't want to live in a world where the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile is not safe. But apparently we do. It was a worst case scenario. Oscar Mayer Wienermobile needed repairs Friday after thieves stole its catalytic converter. That makes me laugh. Here's the good news. An anonymous Greenville, South Carolina man won a $150,000 Powerball prize, and he gave all of it to charity. That's pretty cool. Called the winning exhilarating. Said he hit enough to make someone else happy. That's pretty cool. There's some good news. There's a little light in your life, a little lift in your loafers. Speaking of, The Drive with Brian Wilson coming up right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.